Hey everyone, this is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. Welcome to my YouTube channel and my inaugural YouTube video. I have decided to do a pick a card reading for you all for the month of January 2022 to take a look at the energy that we can expect to be up against or to contend with. So we'll take a look at the energy you're coming into the month with, any potential challenges or blockages, and any recommended energy to kind of move through that and I guess overcome those hurdles, make the most of this month's energy, and kind of move a little bit closer to that highest possible outcome. So I will just make a little disclaimer to begin with. This is my first video and I've actually never recorded a reading at all before. So I'm going to do my best to just kind of vibe with it, to flow with the energy. I'm not going to do a great deal of editing or anything like that. So, and also I'm probably going to shoot over the course of a couple of days. So if there's any kind of weird stuff with continuity and camera positioning and all that fun stuff, that is why. So I'm going to do my best to just kind of keep going, but bear with me if it takes me a while to find my words and if I end up rambling, because that is a specialty of mine for sure. So we have 3 different piles for you to choose from this month. So we have the first is the Wild Unknown Tarot with this black tourmaline. And pile number 2 is the Crystal Visions Tarot with this raw amethyst. And finally, pile 3, we have the Light Seers Tarot and this raw Howlite. So if you are familiar with pick a card readings, now is a great time to pause the video, take a moment to see which pile is calling to you most, and I will put the timestamps for each pile in the description below, so you can just click that link and head right on over. For those of you who are new to pick a pile readings or unfamiliar, I do have a little bit of advice or maybe just personal experience that may be of assistance when you're selecting your pile, just to kind of help ensure that you get the most out of this reading. And so when I first came across pick a pile readings on YouTube, I really was like very much in my head and like analytically and logically trying to discern what pile was best, what was going to have the best messages, you know, as though there were a right and wrong answer. And that's totally not the case. So there are valuable messages in each pile. And the tarot is a really, really wonderful tool for self-reflection and personal development. So no matter what, you know, there's always valuable information in there. It's just a matter of, you know, what messages might be more aligned to you. So I would strongly suggest that rather than coming at it from a logical perspective, or even simply choosing, you know, the flashiest deck or the nicest crystal, it may very well be what you end up choosing. But I found for myself, when I was able to take a moment and quiet my mind, I actually noticed, sometimes even in the thumbnail for the YouTube video, that my eyes were just naturally drawn to a specific pile. And so the longer that I sat and just gave myself the opportunity to look at the options, the more that I noticed I was kind of, it was almost like a nagging, like I was kind of I kept being directed to one pile, or there was one that stood out, and it wasn't necessarily my favorite. But when I started following that, instead of trying to overthink, I ended up choosing piles that had a whole lot more resonance, I guess, that were a lot more fitting. And so I took that as a pretty good indicator that that intuitive approach is the best, at least for me. It might be helpful to you as well. So before you make your decision, I would highly recommend you just sit with yourself for a few minutes, maybe close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and kind of get grounded and centered in your own energy, and then take a look and see what calls to you. And It also is worth saying that these are general readings, so the information in each pile might not apply to all of you. So I would just say in that case to, take whatever does resonate, any information, any details that make sense and that are easily applied to your situation, that really like trigger something within you. I would say those messages are meant for you, and to take those and just leave the rest. Those are likely for somebody else. And if the pile that you choose happens to have nothing of value to you, or nothing is really resonating, you can feel free to choose another pile. It's possible you may even have more than one pile that you are drawn to, so that's perfectly fine. You can even watch all three if you want. And it is also possible, because this is general, that perhaps all three of the piles might not resonate with you. That just means that there may not be a message for you in this particular reading, but hopefully future readings. And with that in mind, the more that you connect with my channel and my videos and engage with my content, the more your energy is showing up here, and the more likely it is that that's going to be included in future readings. So I think we're ready to start. So if you'd like to take a moment, you can just pause the video right here and take a moment to decide what pile is calling to you. And I have put all of the timestamps in the description below, so you can just click the link for whatever pile, and I will see you there. Hi there, pile 1. If you chose the Wild Unknown Tarot and this little black tourmaline, then these messages are going to be for you. We will be talking about what to expect in the month of January, and any messages that might help you along your path. We will take into consideration the kind of energy you're coming into the month with, any potential challenges and how you might work through those challenges, and basically the overall energy to see what kind of potential there is and how you can move toward your highest possible outcome for this month. So I just want to say before we get started, my recording setup is a little bit funny, so I'm gonna do my best not to knock the camera, but it might get a little chaotic from time to time here. Okay, so we have 4 tarot cards that have been pre-shuffled. These were the ones that came out, and then 1 oracle card. So your first card is the 5 of Cups. We have Strength, and the High Priestess, and finally the Ace of Pentacles. And then your oracle, we have Priestess again. So immediately I see, we've got a lot of that High Priestess energy showing up, which is really kind of a cool place to be, especially at the beginning of the new year. It's kind of like really kind of delving into that intuitive energy, and you're kind of like inner knowing. So already I kind of get the vibe that January is going to be a neat month, and especially in terms of the potential for spiritual development, and kind of moving further in that direction. So starting off with the 5 of Cups, we can kind of see, like, this card kills me because it kind of just reminds me of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, and that is very much the energy of the 5 of Cups, especially in this deck. So you can see, like, this horse is not looking very happy. He's looking down into the darkness. He doesn't see the light above him. He doesn't see all of these cups, all these opportunities for love and fulfillment and happiness and all of those good things. And so chances are you might be feeling a little bit sad, a little bit worn down, maybe even discouraged coming into the month of January. It's possible that there has been, some loss or some disappointment. Things haven't quite been working out the way that you've wanted them to. And it can be really difficult to go through those kinds of experiences and not be overcome by those low kind of emotions. And the trouble with those emotions is that, regardless of if it's just a couple of challenging things that we've come across, or if it's like one thing after another, the more that we stay in that energy of, sadness and, perceived loss and even kind of like hopelessness, it can be really difficult to connect with the fact that, change is inevitable. Things are always going to be changing. So even if things aren't necessarily looking up right now, or even if you're feeling kind of crappy because of how things have gone to this point, you know, it's inevitable that things will change. You know, things can't stay the way that they are. And the most important factor in change and in our growth, and even just, you know, happiness and fulfillment is a lot of the time what cups is all about. And so the really important thing is to be aware of your emotions and to be aware of the thoughts that are coming up as a result. So it's really important not to let your mind feed on those low emotions and kind of like run with them. So with those difficult emotions, a lot of the time as humans, we are trying to understand our experience, and not everything can be understood, and it's certainly not black and white, you know, there's a lot of gray, and the way the world works is mysterious. So we don't always know why things are happening, and it can be especially difficult to try and rectify why we're struggling, or why things that are hurtful have been happening, or why, you know, we feel that we are, you know, things aren't going the way that we want them to. And the only thing that you can do in those types of situations is, you know, mind your thoughts, right? So if you are looking for a reason as to why all of this is happening, a lot of the times your mind is going to feed on those low emotions, and the decision that you're going to come to can be something like, you know, well, the world is against me, or I'm not meant to do this, or I'm not meant to be happy, or I don't deserve, you know, fulfillment. And of course that's not the case, but, you know, if we're in that energy for long enough, our thoughts can really come to the point where they've convinced us that there's not much else. And so it's very important, if you are having a hard time, and even if the struggle continues into the beginning of the month and you're feeling kind of worn down, it's just really important to be aware of those thoughts and to remember that, you know, there's opportunity everywhere, and we really just have to be willing to see it, and we have to be willing to connect with the light, you know, and hope and those types of opportunities. So if you're feeling worn down because things haven't been working out how you want, and you haven't really achieved whatever it is that's most important to you, don't give up hope. Don't decide that it's not possible to get there. Just do your best to kind of, you know, take care of yourself, and to know that the opportunity is always there. You know, life is what we make it, and we have to decide what we're going to take. So take a look at what's been going on and what kind of disappointment you've been up against. Figure out what you can take from that. Like, what are you going to learn? How is that going to make you better? How are you going to carry that energy forward in a positive way, or not even positive necessarily, but a productive way to help you start connecting with more opportunity? And really, like, that's kind of what it's all about, especially when it comes to strength. Like, you are being challenged. So the strength card, you know, obviously we have very simplistic ideas of strength, because the real strength that matters, which is like your inner strength, emotional strength, your resiliency, like, that's difficult to quantify, you know, and it looks different for everybody, because it really has a lot to do with our own personal experiences and what we're going through. But yeah, you're being challenged to kind of step into your strength, you know? So when you're in this low place, don't start telling yourself, you know, that you're not worth it. Don't start telling yourself that you can't accomplish whatever it is that you want to do, or maybe you're not valuable or worthy enough. Like, your challenge is, in spite of the things that are not going right, and in spite of the things that are, you know, sad or disappointing or hurtful, like, you know, you still have what it takes, and you have the strength to get through it and overcome it. You have the strength to come out better. You have the strength to learn from your experiences, and, you know, you deserve to value yourself. You deserve your own time and attention. And so self-care, you're also being challenged this month to take care of yourself. And a lot of times, you know, that's body, mind, and soul. So if you're in a low place, or things are just not working out in the outside world, and there's not much that you can do, then, you know, the best thing to do is turn inward. Take care of yourself, you know, eat well, get rest, if possible. And, you know, exercise. Sometimes just getting outside in nature can be really grounding. because you have to have that relationship to yourself, and you have to believe in your strength and your ability in order to connect with the opportunities that are available to you. Because if you want this like confidence in this passionate life, like that, it's really about, you know, this is a card of also of prosperity too, of being able to take action and manifest whatever it is you're trying to create. And often that's coming from a place of passion and, you know, excitement and creativity. It's something fulfilling, you know, something that is lacking right here. And so also with the High Priestess, that's indicating that not only is it important to kind of tap into that inner strength and to take care of yourself in a way that helps you feel and recognize how capable you are in spite of how things are appearing in the external world. And the High Priestess is basically just kind of nailing that point home, because we don't understand, you know, we can't possibly understand why things are happening. You know, we can think ourselves into oblivion and try to find a reason, but at the end of the day, like, there's no way for sure for us to know. And, you know, the universe is complicated. And so the High Priestess is all about, you know, trusting your intuition and understanding that just because something is being reflected back to you in your external circumstances doesn't mean that that is, you know, for good. And there's an example that crossed my mind. So just like communicating with individuals is multifaceted. So for example, you know, you've got language, you've got, you know, the choice of words, you have intonation, how the message is delivered, you've got body language, and all of those elements kind of combine together to get a message across. And so we need all of that information to really kind of gauge what a person is telling us, but sometimes that energy is fragmented, right? So sometimes people will say one thing and we can tell that they mean another. And I think that's what's really important, is that the same applies. You know, we pick up on people's energy, we pick up on people's intentions, even if they're saying and doing the right thing, right? It's possible that they might have, you know, the wrong intention or a different intention than they're actually conveying. And we pick up on that. And in the same way, we can pick up on so much in terms of what's going on, what's right for us, right? And so if you have something that you're passionate about, if there's something that you know, you're following your intuition in the direction of whatever's going to be most fulfilling for you, even if it's not manifesting, or even if the people around you are not necessarily supportive or they don't see or understand your vision, it's really important to just trust that being connected to your intuition, knowing what's best for you, you know, standing in your power and allowing yourself the opportunity, even just to be open-minded, right? So even if it's just a matter of waiting, you know, taking some time and knowing that when you're aligned, right, when you are in your power, you're connecting with your passions, you're taking inspired action, and you're connected to your intuition. So you know what it is that you should be doing. It doesn't matter if things are not quite there in the physical world, right? Because we're able to pick up on so much opportunity. And a lot of times, like, things aren't necessarily going to move quickly, right? So it's also having the strength to endure the journey, because a lot of times we want to get to that happiness and fulfillment really quickly. We want to be successful immediately. And inevitably, it's a journey, right? It takes time and effort, and we don't get there immediately. And so the important part is that when things are moving slowly, or things on the outside that you're experiencing don't seem to align with what it is that you're trying to create or what it is that you want, or it might even seem like the complete opposite is happening, like maybe you're moving further away from what it is that you perceive you want. You just have to trust that as long as you know what you want and you're coming at it from a place of inner alignment and belief in yourself, you kind of have to be able to trust not only yourself, but also the universe. You know, you have to trust that taking inspired action, connecting with the energy that you want to bring in, getting into that mindset, right, will take you there. So it's not to say that you just think about it and it'll happen, but a big part of manifesting is waiting and knowing the right time to act, and trusting that if things are not working out or you're running into blocks, there's a reason, there's a lesson to be learned. You're being given the opportunity to kind of like level up. So maybe you're not meant to hit that goal right now. You know, maybe on your way to happiness and fulfillment, you know, there's some additional work to be done. And it's very well possible that you can start feeling fulfilled in the now. You don't have to hit your end goal, and things don't have to be perfect. So it's learning to connect with the joy and the passion that you are trying to create for yourself in the future now. So feeling and experiencing that now, and trusting that being in that energy, opportunities will arise and you will be prepared to see them. But it's very difficult to be open to opportunities and then to be able to seize them and to trust your intuition, like what is aligned, what's going to be helpful, and when to kind of pounce, right? Because we've got two large felines here. It's really difficult to do that if you are looking into the darkness and telling yourself all of these kind of low and discouraging things, and you're letting those experiences that haven't worked out kind of break you down and I don't know, dampen your spirit and your hope for the future. So that is definitely going to be the struggle, but it's amazing with Strength and the High Priestess. And then the Priestess here again, it really, really is just a matter of, you know, tuning into yourself, having faith in the universe, being open. And the other thing is too, this reminds me of something one of my favorite tarot readers had said once. He was talking about like symbolism and animals, and he was talking about like these large felines, right? And they have kind of a bad rap for being lazy. Like lions just bask in the sun and lay around. And, you know, cats are known for like lounging and just kind of relaxing and enjoying life. But the thing is, it's not that they're lazy, they're efficient and they're intentional. So they don't waste or expend their energy if it's not necessary. And they take very quick and effective action immediately when needed to ensure that they get their end result. So, you know, for example, when it's time to hunt, they will hunt and they will, you know, stalk their prey. They will wait, they will watch, and when it's time, they pounce. They're not going to chase their prey around in circles for hours and hours and hours until they tire them out. Like that's not how they work, right? And so it's kind of the presence of like these two very strong feline figures, and then even here on either side of the Priestess you can see. So it's basically, you know, reminding you that it's important to be intentional about where you're putting your energy, how you're expending your energy. And we pride ourselves on productivity and running around and accomplishing as much as possible and, you know, being available to everybody at all hours of the day. But really, that's kind of a recipe for disaster. And you don't have to be busy and running around and productive all the time to be productive and to accomplish things. You know, sometimes knowing what you need to do and waiting to the appropriate time to do it is more effective and yields better results than, you know, worrying about it or ruminating on it and really like overextending yourself. So it could be, you know, mental energy, emotional energy, physical energy. So it's basically saying like your biggest resource is your energy in any, you know, every way, shape, and form. And to take some time for yourself, you know, don't be afraid to sit in your own energy. Don't be afraid to wait. You can trust when you're connected with, you know, opportunity and hope, and you're willing to believe that that is a possibility for you, you're able to connect to your intuition so you know when to act. And that allows you to make more use of the restful periods. right? So you can have that kind of vision and trust that when it's time to take action, you can take action and things will work out. And, sometimes we have to wait. Sometimes we have to be patient. And that's the most difficult part. So the High Priestess is encouraging us on our path as we're moving toward our highest outcome that, there's going to be periods of waiting. There's going to be periods of stagnancy stagnancy. And, you might feel stuck. You might feel lost. You might feel like things are not working out. And it's just really important to stay grounded and centered in your own energy and to take care of yourself and not to kind of fall into that pit of despair, because you need to stay, in that higher vibrational energy. And, even if it's just a matter of waiting it out, you don't want to get discouraged to the point where you give up, because things take time, right? We are living in a society where everyone expects everything to happen so quickly and very much instant gratification. But for anything that's really important and meaningful, and anything that has to do with our emotional, spiritual development, even like in terms of career, family, making big moves, sometimes things fall into place really quickly and can happen immediately. And it's wonderful when they do, but a lot of times there can be the road there can be less clear, right? So it might not necessarily be straight, and you might end up having a lot of challenges and blocks and redirections, and things might not look the way that you expected them to. But to have this strength and this confidence and this vision, it will help you adapt to whatever's thrown your way without getting really kind of off base emotionally. And it's really, really just trusting yourself, trusting the universe, trusting that you can handle what's coming your way. And that even if things are not where you'd like them to be, or not happening the way they are, or you're intending them to happen, that there's something valuable there still. Everything happens for a reason, as cliche and horrible as that sounds, I know. But it's really true. And it's unfortunate because sometimes we really just want something to happen. Sometimes we've made up our mind what's best for us, but we don't always know, right? We make the decisions based on, we do the best with what we have, but we don't always know what's best for us. We don't always know what's in our highest good. And we have to trust that, the universe has a way of unfolding to help us achieve our highest potential if we're willing to seize those opportunities. So it's basically like taking those challenges, taking those disappointments, and transforming them into opportunities for development, for transformation, for growth. Because if you can take a look at everything that's happening, even if it's the complete opposite of what you want, even if it's horrible, right? Of course, you're going to need time to, to decompress and to work through those feelings. And, it's normal to have ups and downs, but when you've had your time, and even if you need support, right, the strength card is also about not being afraid to ask for help or support if you feel that you need it, especially if you're dealing with something really heavy, like on an emotional level, and you're not feeling great, right? So that's also an important investment in health, and in your overall health is getting the support that you need. Now I just completely lost my train of thought. but yeah, it's important, obviously, to take care of yourself, but to just be in that space where you're doing what you need to do to keep yourself in a higher vibration, and trying not to overthink or make assumptions about why things are happening to you, but trying to just meet them where they are. Obviously handle the emotions and do what you need to do to take care of yourself, obviously. But there comes a time when we have to move forward, and we have to decide if we're going to let those challenges break us or if we're going to let them make us stronger. And so having that kind of trust that life is unfolding as it's meant to, things are happening for you, and even the crappy stuff has a purpose and it's all for your highest good. Being able to connect with that energy and trust that is really, really going to help you stay in a higher vibration, but also, deal with and overcome the challenges and align and, create the kind of life that you want. And with this Ace of Pentacles, this is like a perfect month for manifestation. It's the perfect month for setting intentions, for planting seeds, for taking action, and the other thing that's kind of cool is like, this just makes me think of like the heart of the tree, and that's where the pentacle is. And then we've got these new leaves sprouting out. So it's kind of like, what are your hopes and dreams? Like, what is your heart telling you? What do you want? What do you want to create? What do you want to experience? What do you want to manifest for yourself? And so it's like, if you're coming into the month with this low energy of sadness and disappointment and feeling like, things are not working out, how do you take those experiences now that you know what you don't want, right? So how do you get out of that energy and turn it into something good, right? So it's like the soil is fertile for planting the seed, but what is that seed going to be? You don't want to invest your time and energy and plant a seed that's going to take you back here, or that's influenced by this, right? Because when we can get into that low energy where we're kind of hopeless and things feel rough, if that impacts our core beliefs about ourselves and about the world, then that is influencing our thoughts and feelings and the decisions that we're making. And so when we have the opportunity to start anew or to create something, we are less likely to connect with, the highest possible outcome, or the outcome that is going to be most beneficial to us, that's going to have the highest possibility for fulfillment, because we're not connected with that energy to begin with, So your attitude is going to really, really determine how much you can take advantage of this kind of opportunity for growth and for development. And also this Ace of Pentacles is saying like, yes, this is a perfect month to start anew, to figure out what it is that you're trying to create and to plant that seed. So it doesn't have to be anything huge. And I think oftentimes a lot of us, especially when we're in this low energy, when there are things that we want to create, we can get really easily overwhelmed trying to make things too complicated. So I would say like, start simple, even if it's just one little thing, one small change that you want to make, one thing that you want to bring into your life, whether it's more happiness, whether it's, health, whether it's related to relationships. So whatever it is that you are trying to create, whatever it is you desire that's going to leave you feeling happy and fulfilled, just choose one small thing. And if you can take one step each day, it doesn't have to be a huge commitment. For example, if anxiety is something that you struggle with, or stress, and you want to be able to start clearing your mind and having more peace of mind, then perhaps you'd like to start a meditation practice. So it could be as simple as saying, what, this month I want to work on my mental health. I want to take some time for myself. So each day I'm going to take 10 to 15 minutes to meditate when I, get up in the morning or before I go to bed. And if you can do that each day this month, chances are by the end of the month, you'll have gotten into the habit and you will have already started to benefit. But it is a slow process, right? So things are not going to change immediately. Things are not going to be super drastic necessarily, unless, it is possible. But this is, planting the seed, and the whole energy here is kind of like, it's really about patience, right? It's really about being able to cultivate that patience and that hope and that positivity and trust that things are going to work out. So, and think about a garden, right? So if you're planting a seed in a garden, you've done all of the work to prepare the soil so that whatever you're cultivating is going to grow and thrive. So the groundwork has been done and you plant the seed, but you're not done after that, right? So it's like you have to water every day. And even so, even showing up every day to water, you don't see results immediately. Sometimes it takes seeds up to a week to germinate, or sometimes they're buried, deep down enough that even when they begin to sprout, you're not necessarily seeing it, and you can't just continuously dig up the dirt to check on the seed, because that's going to disrupt the whole process, and chances are it's not going to sprout at all, or it's going to be severely stunted. So it's kind of like taking action, small action each day, trusting that it's going to take you to where you need to go, and not overthinking it, right? And not getting discouraged because you're not seeing huge results immediately, because that's the intended energy of this month. So I'm sorry to say that if there's something huge that you're hoping to happen, really quickly or immediately, this energy doesn't seem to really align with it, but it is saying that now is the perfect time to start getting into that space where you're ready to connect with what you're trying to bring in, and you're ready to start taking those consistent steps. Because those little steps, day by day, watering your seed, watching the plant grow, planting more seeds, eventually you're going to have a beautiful garden, right? And so it's just having to be patient and still be committed to yourself, taking care of yourself on all levels, and really digging down deep, recognizing your strength, recognizing all that you've accomplished to date, and realizing that you're capable of so much more. There are no limits. The High Priestess also reminds us, like, look, there's so much, like, there's unknown, right? Which is scary and unstable, but it's also so expansive. There are so many opportunities. There are no limitations. The only limitations, are within your mind. And obviously with any external limitations, like timing, there's only so much that we can do about that. So we have to be able to trust that, with consistent effort and focus and confidence in our ability to succeed, that we will get there, and to not get down and kind of like luxuriate in this energy to the point that it causes us to give up on our dream or our goal, or that consistent work, showing up and putting the effort in and tending your garden, right? So the other thing that's interesting is, so with this deck, there's a guidebook, and this Priestess card in particular, it has a lot to do with leadership, which obviously the High Priestess is, a leader, a mentor, often spiritually. So you might be also in a position to benefit from some kind of mentor or teacher or leader. So if there's something, especially on a spiritual level, I would say, even just in terms of mindfulness, meditation, mindset, it could even be therapy, to be honest with you. But it's kind of like being willing also to connect with individuals who are on the path that you want to be on, or individuals that can help support you in getting there, right? So to help you connect with your power, with your strength, and with the opportunity that's out there, there might be someone also this month that you can connect with that is going to help you on that path, or maybe, give you some additional information or support that's going to help you kind of anchor all of this down. Or it could be that you are being called to lead as well. So, maybe in the workplace or even within your family, you might be in a position where you have to start kind of leading and setting an example for others. And the easiest way to do that is to be in that position where, you're taking care of yourself, you're grounded in your own energy, and you are able to intuitively know, when to take action and what the right action is. All right, so I think I'm going to leave that here. I'm just going to shuffle. We'll get some affirmation cards for you before I finish. Okay, so pile one. What our affirmations are going to help anchor in this energy this month? Oh, I've got one. Okay, when I move through my body, I bust through all that blocks me from my true health and vitality. Okay, I'll see if maybe I can get one more for pile one. An affirmation just to help anchor in this energy for this month. Okay, we got a couple here. So, to truly flourish is to release all the tension that holds me back from letting love pour through me. And then I share my light with the world, and I am ready to love. So I think those are all really encouraging messages. And I think this one is also really interesting because it's basically kind of what we were talking about with strength, right? Is being willing to invest in your health and well-being. And, you know, self-care is a big part of that. So especially if you're going through things in life that are difficult and you're feeling down, that's when you especially need to lean into self-care. So this is, you know, encouraging you even like, you know, maybe movement, physical activity is going to be something that helps you transmute this energy, helps you move through those lows. And then also with share my light, I share my light with the world. That, you know, really does connect with the high priestess energy, right? So being willing to lead. And, you know, the high priestess, she is kind of like an icon, right? So she's connected, she's divinely guided, she trusts herself to continue along her path, and she's living her life, right? So she's not caught up in what other people think. She's not falling under the spell of the illusions of, you know, the external world or, you know, the expectations of others. She is tuned in, she knows what's right, and she's following her path, even if it seems a little strange or different, you know, even if it doesn't make sense to the people around her. So it's kind of like being willing to figure out, like, you know, who are you? What makes you strong? What are you capable of? What do you want to create? Where do you want to go? And perhaps also getting out of this like lower energy is, you know, being willing to connect with who you are, show up authentically, and share that with other people, right? And like releasing your tension, releasing these worries, because it's really difficult. Like the cups represent love and emotional fulfillment and happiness. And it's really difficult to connect with love when you are in this place of kind of like despair or tension, stress, sadness, you know, hopelessness. And so it seems like, you know, taking time to connect with love, you know, self-care, self-love is important, right? And filling your cup, recognizing and having gratitude for, you know, the love and abundance that's in your life right now, and to be willing to receive, right? So it also, in relationships especially, it takes strength. It takes strength to be willing to receive love, right? So we have to give ourselves the kind of love that we would like to receive from others. We have to be committed to our well-being and our happiness and our health. And being in that space allows us to give the love that we would like to receive. But sometimes, you know, even if we feel like we're in a place where we're ready to receive love, it's not until it's there in front of us that we kind of shut down, and we can even, you know, avoid it, or it makes us feel uncomfortable or maybe unworthy, or, you know, like it's too good to be true, and that can cause you to just shut down. So it takes strength as well to love, to give love, but also to receive love. There are a lot of people out there who are comfortable, you know, expressing love to others, but when it comes to receiving, love and affection and attention and actually having a deep level of emotional connection, it can be really easy to kind of just like step back and feel uncomfortable, because it does take strength to really lean into that and to connect with love. So that's another kind of point for this month. So it's like, take care of yourself, move your body, and take time to connect with love, especially on those days that you're feeling down, and that you might not even want to take care of yourself because you're feeling a bit downtrodden. Love is super important. Love for yourself, love for others. Take time to recognize the love in your life. Take time to acknowledge the people that you love and that love you, and be willing to receive love, right? Especially if you're going through a hard time. You are worthy of receiving love, and it can be easy to shut down and to act like we don't need it, especially if we're hurting or we're struggling. But connecting with love, allowing people to love you, even through your most difficult times, is really what's going to help you the most this month, I think. So all right, pile one, I think I'm going to leave this reading here. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited to have had the opportunity to read cards for you. I hope this resonated, and if it did, you can like the video, subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. I would be super happy to hear your feedback. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to creating more videos for you in the future. Hi there, pile two. I just want to start off by saying I had to take a pause in recording, so the lighting is a little bit different now. There's a bit of a shadow here, which is not ideal, but I'm hoping that everything will still be clear enough. I'm still waiting on some equipment that will hopefully improve the quality and the lighting consistently, but for the time being, I'm just doing the best with what I've got. So my apologies if it's a little bit less than aesthetically pleasing. But so yeah, welcome pile two. If you chose the Crystal Visions Tarot and this Amethyst, and these messages are going to be for you for the month of January, to see what's coming in January 2022, what kind of energy you might be coming into the month with, any potential challenges, how you can really make the most of this month's energies and kind of move in the direction of your absolute highest good. And then also keep in mind that this is a general reading, so not necessarily everything will resonate with you. So I just highly encourage you to take anything that resonates, anything that kind of triggers a thought or a feeling and makes sense to you. Take that and run with it, and everything else, and just leave it. It's likely for somebody else. Yeah, and so before we get started, so we've got 4 tarot cards and 1 oracle card to help kind of tie everything together. I had already done the shuffle, and these were the 4 that came out. I'm just going to keep it basic in nature, just for my first video. So let's get started. Okay. So you have the Tower, King of Cups, 4 of Cups, and the Knight of Cups. Right. And then your oracle card is the Crumbling. This is actually really, really interesting energy, because this is the second reading that has had basically the same major arcana card come out. So the first, I think it was the High Priestess, and then the Oracle was the Priestess, and then this one you've got the Tower, and also basically the equivalent of the Tower in this Oracle. So, geez, pile 2, it seems like you might be having a time. You might be going through it right now. This is a lot of intensity, and there's also like a lot of emotional energy that's coming up here. So I wouldn't be surprised if this month starts off on a tumultuous note, or if maybe coming to the end of 2021, you know, there was kind of like a major shift or change, or, you know, kind of like a crumbling down of something. This is like a very challenging energy. But in spite of it being challenging, there's also like a lot of positives. There's also a lot of really beautiful opportunities. So coming into the month, you've got this Tower energy, which indicates, like, generally it can be, well, it can be a number of things, but generally it can be like a loss. It could be a loss of a loved one, of a relationship, a job, a house, financial loss, or you know, like a crumbling down of any one of those things. And it can also be on an emotional or spiritual level. So sometimes, as much as we can focus on the physical manifestations of this energy, like in the real world, or the external world, sorry. Sometimes it can be a very intense internal energy. So it could be an awakening of sorts. So perhaps either something has happened, or you've come to a realization that's kind of shaken your foundation, right? So shaken you to your core in terms of your beliefs, and has you kind of doubting what you thought you knew. And so that can also be a really powerful transformational internal energy as well. So whatever this is for you, you know, whether it is that internal shift and crumbling down of all the things that you thought that you knew, or whether it's an actual, you know, loss or major shift, excuse me, in your external settings, work, home, any and all of those things. The thing to keep in mind with the Tower is that as much as it feels like a really challenging and sometimes really overwhelming energy, and it can be very tumultuous and very difficult to navigate, and it can leave you feeling like you don't have much stability, you know, and maybe the things that you felt that you need, or the things that you lean on the most in life, are not feeling so stable and so certain any longer, and you can't turn to those things to help navigate your way forward. And so it's a really important energy, because as much as it's challenging, this is the exact energy that opens the door to a really huge transformation, or provides the opportunity for a major kind of level up. And so essentially the universe has conspired in such a way, things have gone in such a way that, you know, you can't hold on to this any longer, right? So this Tower is crumbling into the ocean. There's no salvaging it. And, you know, the lightning coming from the sky, it's kind of like, that's to signify that it's divinely guided, right? So there's nothing that you could have done necessarily to stop this, or perhaps even if you had tried, the outcome probably would have come back around to this, because this is linked to like a major shift and life lesson. So there is purpose to whatever it is that you're going through that is so challenging right now, that it feels like, you know, things are dissolving, you know, dissolving into this rough ocean. And so with that in mind, the beauty of the Tower and the Tower energy is that when things come crumbling down, right? When we lose something, when something kind of goes to crap, to be honest with you, it can be really, really awful. And there's certainly so many different implications, both internally and externally, in terms of what we're dealing with, and what we have to kind of come to terms with in order to move forward. But the beautiful thing is that it's really taking down what was there, and it's taking it out of your way. So there may not necessarily be a way to salvage the situation. You might not be able to hold on to it any longer. And it's basically, sometimes it can feel like it's taking you back to square one, or sometimes even further behind. Maybe you feel like not only have you lost, but you're not even back where you started. You're kind of in the hole, right? And that's totally okay, as much as it's difficult. When you think about any kind of construction, right? Generally, you know, there's excavation that happens, right? Excavation, and, you know, you want to have that stability in terms of, you know, the land before you start laying the foundation of your house, right? So that preparation is just as important as the actual building, and then actual, you know, finishing and enjoying what it is that you've created. And so this is basically saying, like, as much as this might suck, as much as it might be, you know, emotionally challenging, not ideal, and as much as it might be getting you kind of into a negative frame of mind, or you might be mourning whatever it is that's happened, ultimately this is providing you the opportunity to start again. And the beautiful thing about starting again is that you don't have to be tied to what was. You know, you don't have to recreate what it was that was lost. And most times, like, it's not wise to create what was. You know, you don't want to recreate that situation that ended badly. And if it ended badly and it's disappeared or being taken out of your life, sometimes very suddenly, there's generally a reason for that, right? And it's kind of like another cliche, you know, when one door closes, another one opens. This is the epitome of that, but it's not so vague in that, like, you know, you're relying on something externally to happen or to fall into place for you. Like, somebody shuts a door and then another one's going to open and you'll just know to go through that door. That's, you know, a little too simplistic for this kind of situation, because this is very much about your power, right? Your ability to create and build and manifest. And so it's basically saying, like, you've been, the building has been raised, right? It's not there anymore. And why would you build the same building that fell? Why would you create the same thing that crumbled away, right? So if you have absolutely no choice but to start over and to kind of build from the ground up again, why wouldn't you take the time to improve your structure, right? Like, why don't you build your dream house, right? Don't build this like janky old tower that's gonna just like crumble away again. Like, build your dream house, build your mansion. And that is whatever you want it to be. That could be, you know, if it's the loss of a relationship, it could be, you know, setting intentions around what you want your relationships to be moving forward, what kind of partner you want to call in, how you want to be treated, you know, what your expectations are, what you've learned from your past experience, and how that's going to inform, you know, creating something better. And it does take effort and intention on your part. You have to do the work. And so basically the tower energy is calling on you to say, like, hey, you know, you're going through a rough time, you've lost something, but, you know, you can come back stronger. And this is actually a blessing, because whatever it is that you've lost might seem like a big deal right now, but in the grand scheme of things, there's so much more to come. There's so much better out there, and you can create something even bigger and better than you can even imagine, right? And so it's connecting with that opportunity and that expansive energy that, like, hey, you know, with every ending there is a new beginning, and this is definitely a card of ending. Absolutely. So that energy coming into January is actually like a pretty productive one. As much as this might be a tumultuous time, like, you know, with the new year starting and everybody, you know, new year, new you, I don't know. I don't believe that, because, you know, we're always growing and we should always be prioritizing our growth and happiness each and every day, right? That's our responsibility. But just starting fresh, right? Like, we are at the beginning of a new year. We're at the very beginning of the first month of the new year. And you're coming in with this energy that's like, hey, you basically have like a kind of like a blank canvas in whatever area of life this energy is affecting you. And so you don't have to know exactly what it is that you're going to build right away. You don't have to be stressed. You don't have to feel pressured. But it's basically just saying, like, hey, these things have fallen away for a reason. You will have to take your time to work through any challenges, any emotions, anything that might kind of be getting you down or might stand in the way of you moving toward your highest good. And then the important thing is to start connecting with something more positive and hopeful. So, you know, if you have to move in a different direction or you have to do something differently, what does your heart call you to do, right? Like, what do you want to connect with? What do you want to create? What does this dream home look like? And how might you get there, or how might you start taking steps to get there? And so, yeah, so it's a very open-ended energy, and it's like huge new beginning, however that might apply to your specific situation. But it's also like very much like, this is what you make of it. So if you spend your time focused on what has crumbled away and the fact that it's been out of your control, and if you're fighting it, that resistance is only going to amplify that energy and that struggle. So, do what you need to do, feel what you need to feel. If you need help or support from the people around you, absolutely take advantage of all of those resources, but know that this is a beautiful opportunity for you to start moving in a direction that feels more aligned with you. And the other thing that I cannot deny is that we're looking at the rest of these cards, and it's all cups. It's all water energy, which is very emotional and intuitive. And, there can be a struggle to kind of keep our emotions in check, right? So to understand the value that they offer in understanding ourselves and our place in the world, and interactions and relationships with other people, but they can also be really damaging, and they can be a major hindrance if we're not empowered to really be aware and understanding of the implications of our emotions, and how they're informing our behavior and our decisions, and whether that's taking us to a place where we're going to be staying in this energy of loss, or trying to recreate what was lost, or if we're really going to take advantage of the opportunity to just, do it bigger and better this time. And so your challenge this month is coming through as you basically need to find a way to create emotional stability. The thing that just came to mind is like an oasis. You have to create an oasis in your mind, right? And not in a flight of fancy kind of way, and not like in an avoidant, fantastical kind of way, but an oasis as in like a spot that is beautiful and safe and feels good, so that, regardless of what your external circumstances are and whatever you're going through right now, that you are able to kind of maintain a certain level of inner peace. And that's going to be self-created. That's not going to come from anyone else. It's not going to come from anything else, because everything else in our life is just, it's external, it's situational, it's circumstantial. And while these things can greatly impact us and benefit us, or even be to our detriment, nothing really changes us but ourselves, if that makes sense. Like, we are responsible for how we handle our lives and things that happen to us, and our feelings about those things. And so it's important to kind of like connect with emotions, but have a safe space to sit with them and feel them and honor them without being completely swept away. Right? So the King of Cups, he is emotional and sensitive and intuitive. He's loving, and and there's stability there, right? So he's grounded on this rock, right? And he's got his foot dipped into the water, which is his subconscious and his emotions. And then he's got this cup full of love and all of the good things that we want. And he's under the full moon, which stands for, illumination of, the subconscious. And so there's a certain level of stability, emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, and basically being able to navigate these emotions without being completely sucked in. Right? And so that's going to be the challenge, is that you're already facing some kind of major challenge that's shaking your life up. And it could very well be a really discouraging, really sad, hurtful time. Like you might need time to mourn. Like this just makes me, it's like grief, right? If you're experiencing grief of any kind, you know, you can get through it. You can and will work through it, but you know, it's not going to be a quick process, and you're not going to feel better right away. And, you know, grief never really leaves you, right? And so the challenge is to be fortified in this manner, you know, so that you have a way to manage those really difficult emotions and difficult feelings during these challenging and tumultuous times, especially if you're lacking stability, right? If you are lacking stability in the external world, or, you know, in the situations that you're involved in, the most important part is creating that internal stability. And this is going to be really important, especially emotionally, right? So your emotions are probably going to be tested, you know, they're probably going to be on edge. You might find yourself being incredibly reactive, or it could be the absolute opposite. You could be feeling, you know, disconnected, and not because you don't have emotions or you're not going through an emotional period, but because, you know, maybe the emotions are strong enough that you are starting to dissociate because you feel you can't handle it right now. And so that's the challenge. The challenge is to recognize your strength and your power when it comes to emotion, and when it comes to, you know, empowered self-awareness. So bringing that darkness to light. Whatever darkness is coming up as a result of this experience is meant to be brought to the light. And that's the really difficult thing about emotions, is that there's no way around them. You have to go through them. You have to feel them. Sometimes you have to like talk about them or journal, or, you know, do whatever it is that's going to help you process and accept, right? We cannot deal with anything that we haven't accepted. And so that understanding and acceptance that, you know, it's totally normal to go through difficult times. It's totally normal to have an emotional experience, to be an emotional person. A lot of times people feel judged or brushed off, you know, or labeled as sensitive or too sensitive. And, you know, it's painted as a weakness a lot of the time, but our sensitivity is our power in a lot of situations, because it's what allows us to connect with love and compassion and empathy for ourselves and for others. And there really isn't a huge amount of emotional depth and fulfillment without that, right? So we can't have a happy, emotionally fulfilling life if we're not willing to accept that we have emotions and that it's okay. Whether, you know, you feel they're negative or positive emotions, labeling them is not important. And in my perspective, being a sensitive person myself, every single emotion can be positive, right? Because all they are markers for what we're experiencing. And so even if it's a negative emotion like anger or sadness or resentment or anything like that, all it's meant to do is illuminate the part of our experience that needs to be brought to the light, and that we need to become aware of and accept and work through, right? And when we start to do that, we are empowered to kind of move along this path of healing, and we, you know, are able to kind of release. And even if we can't change the situation, and even if we can't change the fact that we're experiencing the emotion, sometimes it's just made easier by recognizing that it's there and it's okay. And maybe, you know, you're not meant to do anything about it. You're just meant to experience it, to flow through it. And then you can take whatever lessons, you know, there are to be learned from that experience, or from those particular feelings that have arisen as a result of, you know, your experience. So the other interesting thing is that the advice is to start paying attention to the areas where you're emotionally disconnecting, right? Because a lot of times our avoidance, or what we're missing, is a really good indicator of a space where there's a blockage, right? Because as humans, we're meant to be, you know, well-rounded. We exist in the world, right? But we're also emotional. We also, you know, have a lot of mental energy. Like, we can easily be overcome by anxiety and overthinking, rumination. So all of these facets of being human serve a purpose, right? And they're all valuable, but they can all kind of get out of balance and end up being more detrimental than good. And so if you see, she's taking a look here. Well, she's not really looking, right? She's got this big, beautiful cup with this lily in it. And this is like an opportunity, right? So of something, abundant and beautiful and meaningful, and that's going to bring happiness, or connection or fulfillment, whatever it is that you're looking for. It's right under her nose, but she's not even paying attention to it, right? So she's so busy kind of like disconnecting from the world around her that she doesn't see that this emotional fulfillment is under her nose. She just has to look at it. She has to decide to connect with it. She has to, it's difficult to find something that you're not looking for, right? So you have to be intentional about what it is that you're trying to achieve and what you're doing. And it just makes me think of that quote. I don't remember who it was by, but basically, like, it's easy to see a yellow car when you're thinking about a yellow car, right? So it's basically like our attention and intention is our power. And whatever we are focusing on is ultimately what we're going to find reflected in our external world, because that's what we're focused on, right? If that's what's running through our heads, that's where we're always looking to make connections, right? And that's what we're going to be looking for in the external circumstance, right? So if you feel like you don't have anything, and like maybe this loss has gotten you into a place where you don't feel like you have anything, or you don't feel like you have anything good, or you really, really want some beautiful opportunity for happiness and fulfillment and a happily ever after, or like a dream come true, but you feel like it's not possible, like that's unreasonable, or that's not the way that life works, right? If you're in that space where you're focused on lack of abundance, lack of opportunity, lack of whatever it is that's important to you, especially if it's something that you feel has been taken from you, or that you've been significantly kind of blocked from moving toward, it's really easy to just focus on what you feel isn't there. And if that's the place that you're in, that will be your reality, right? If you don't think there are any opportunities, and you don't think that you can be happy, you don't think that you can create something fulfilling, then you're right, And so how can you possibly build something beautiful and new that's going to be, the next great thing, if you're in a place where you don't believe it's possible, or you're turning a blind eye to opportunities, right? And so this is basically saying, like, you have to start connecting with those emotions, especially the positive, uplifting ones, especially the ones that feel right, that feel aligned to who you are, what is most important to you, the things that you value in life, the things that you want to cultivate more of. Just because you're experiencing difficult emotions doesn't mean that, like, shutting down and avoiding those emotions or overlooking all the good in your life is going to protect you, right? Because whether you deal with them now or later, those emotions and those experiences are going to be there, and they sit with you, right? And so the idea is to not internalize too much, right? Obviously there's a certain amount of reflection and processing that's required, and like, you generally need a release, right? Think about crying, right? Crying is like the ultimate physical release of emotion from the body. Like, it's supposed to be a cleansing, relieving experience, right? And it's like, our bodies are hardwired to like express emotion, and like, there are some people that don't cry, and if you don't cry, not to say that there's anything wrong with you, but that's a pretty good indication that there's some kind of emotional block, or you're cut off from those feelings. And most often it's from a place of self-protection, because challenges and like losing people and losing things, it's hard, right? And that's nobody wants that. Everybody wants a fresh start on their own terms. Nobody wants to be backed into a corner where they have no choice but to start again, right? Because it doesn't feel empowering. It doesn't feel empowering to start new and move towards something different if it's not something we've decided that we have control on. And that's the biggest thing. With the Tower, we are not in control, right? We are at the mercy of life, right? And, you know, we're being taken in a direction where we have to start connecting with our intuition, right? And this is it. Like, the cups are emotions, but also intuition and subconscious, and learning how to kind of connect with ourselves and others. Also, I was just thinking about, like, this is also like a lot of psychic energy too. So it can also be about dreams, right? Dreams might give you a good idea of what's going on internally. So if you feel like you have emotional blocks, or if you're shutting yourself off and internalizing your emotional experiences, a lot of times, if you are somebody, not everyone dreams, but if you are somebody who dreams regularly, chances are the information that's coming through, the experiences that you're having in dreams, are probably informed by your emotional experiences, and most likely even the things that are internalized. So if that's the case, if you're really going through it, and you know that there's something there, and especially like if you're in this energy, and you're having weird dreams, like, I would highly suggest that you do some research on like dream symbolism. And, you know, I know not everyone believes in it, but sometimes it can be really even just fun, even just for fun, right? And to kind of give you a little bit more perspective, right? There's no harm in researching. There's no harm in educating yourself and connecting with information, especially if it's something like a little bit different, or something that you wouldn't normally, you know, give any kind of time or attention to, or that's not your thing. You know, sometimes those very things that we feel are like, oh, that's weird, sometimes those are the things that actually give us like the most insight into who we are and what we're experiencing, because, you know, it's not in our comfort zone. A lot of times our comfort zones are very much controlled by our need to be in charge and our need to feel safe and stable, and it's not necessarily what's good for us, and it's not necessarily going to illuminate the things that are kind of underneath the surface that need to be addressed, right? So yeah, dream symbolism, like, I wouldn't normally read that from these cards specifically, but it's just something that kind of popped in. And I know, like, I have some really, really wild dreams, and it's interesting to see what the symbolism means, and just to see if anything resonates with you, because sometimes it's easier to connect with or understand emotions and things about ourselves. Like, for example, if we're shutting down or shutting off, or we're avoiding certain things, sometimes it feels a lot less personal when we're not like in the middle of going through it, right? So sometimes the whole point is that the message, whatever that message is, whatever emotional kind of challenge you need to balance out or overcome, sometimes it's brought to you in kind of a gentle, indirect way, right? So that you have the opportunity to make those connections, or maybe identify with the information that's being brought to you, and you have the opportunity to see, like, hey, yeah, I actually do this all the time, and like, yeah, I am, you know, I do avoid interactions with this specific person because, you know, they trigger me or whatever, right? So things that we might otherwise not be able to see about ourselves, our blind spots, sometimes in a situation, like even something as simple as like, oh, dream symbolism is funny, or silly, but, you know, it might resonate with you, and it might be impersonal enough that you're able to just kind of see that information, or understand that information, and sit with it and really see how it's showing up in your life. And then you'll be empowered to handle that emotional thing from a place of like non-emotion almost, right? So you're not in a reactive state. You're not being challenged. You're not being called out. You're not in the thick of it, right? You have that little bit of distance, and you're not being threatened, so you don't feel like you need to keep shutting down. So yeah, that's the goal this month, it seems, to help navigate this energy. And like the overall energy, it's like this, there's a lot of opportunity for emotional fulfillment. And it could also be like, in spite of this situation, whatever that is, this could also be a really, really beautiful month for love and happiness and fulfillment, even if it doesn't feel like that, or even if it's not starting off like that. There's opportunities for beautiful connections. It's not always romantic. It might be, friendship or relationships with family, but it's like there's a lot of love coming in. There's a lot of opportunity for love to be expanded and shared. And even just to look at him, so he's riding on this unicorn, wading through this like pool of emotional like depth and intuition and all of that, like kind of, I don't know, dreamy stuff. And he's riding on a unicorn, right? So it's like, this is unique, this is rare, right? So the whole point, it seems, of this energy is to challenge you to kind of handle these emotional things in a way that gives you stability, so that you can kind of retreat to that oasis where you can deal with your things without being completely overwhelmed and without totally shutting down too. And that in doing that, it's going to allow you to start moving forward, right? It's going to allow you to start moving forward toward, whatever it is that signifies your emotional happiness, right? So it's like the opportunity to start again and recreate, that is best seized when you're in a position where you're connected to your emotions, you're feeling stable and healthy and balanced, or you're at least adapting to the things that are going on, adopting methods of coping and, of handling your emotions and navigating those challenges in a way that is going to, help you continue moving like onward and upward, right? And yeah, again, so he's under the light of the full moon. So it's very much like, kind of like your power is in love this month, right? Love for yourself, love for others, sharing love, giving love, receiving love. And that a lot of times we fear our darkness, we fear our struggle, and we fear that those things coming to light, right? So this could also be like, even in relationships, maybe you're afraid of the people closest to you seeing you struggle or knowing what you are going through. Or maybe like, you don't want to come across as somebody who's having a difficult time, or someone who might need a little bit of extra love and support. And this is basically saying like that, your power for transformation and to have these like relationships that are deep and connected and unique. Like not everybody has these experiences. Not everybody connects with these types of relationships and opportunities for fulfillment. So, if it's there, you obviously want to seize it, but in doing so, you have to embrace that darkness coming up to the light, because we're all human, right? We all have our ups and downs. We all have our own unique struggles, and you can't berate yourself for having a human experience, right? Like that's why we're here. And whoever it is that's closest to you, chances are like they want to know what's going on with you. They want to be able to understand and support you. And there is the possibility that in bringing up whatever you're going through, talking about it, processing your emotions, asking for help, whatever the case may be, that you may end up triggering this person, right? Because they may be going through something similar, or they may relate to what you're talking about, and it might cause them to have to take a deeper look at their own experience and how they're navigating their emotions. So there's also this opportunity to kind of set the example in terms of, how do you want to deal with things moving forward? How do you want to deal with your emotions? How do you want to deal with your connections, your relationships? And like, start moving in the direction that you want to go in. Start setting that example, because you getting into that energy and doing your work and sharing that with the people closest to you not only allows your relationships to expand, and it allows the people around you to know more of you and love more of you, But it also sets a really good example so that, it might not be until you go through this that the people around you see, like, it might bring light to their own blind spots, right? So they might not be aware of their own emotions in the ways that they're struggling or being like pulled under the surface of their emotions or shutting down, and cutting themselves off as a protective kind of mechanism, right? So it might not be until you start working through that, setting that example for them, and they see, you having the courage to do that, but also you benefiting and seeing the benefit that it has for your relationship, that, it might deepen the relationship as a whole because you're going to be more mindful, and perhaps it'll set the example for your partner or your family member or your friend or whoever it is to follow suit, right? To kind of meet you there. And so, yeah, overall, there's like a really wonderful opportunity to start moving forward. And, a lot of times we can focus on the external circumstances, for example, whatever it is that's lost or crumbling down, whatever our current struggle is, whatever has really kind of like shaken us to our core and given us no option but to do things differently, like to change our belief system, to change our behavior, to change our actions, to create something different because the old isn't working. We can focus on like how difficult that is, or how we feel blocked. It's like maybe you feel blocked from the career that you want, or the financial stability, or the home, or the family, or the relationship. But really, it's only through these really intense experiences and kind of major life events that we are able to kind of achieve that next level of emotional development and understanding, right? Because, you kind of have to go through it. And like this also highlights that you have a choice, right? Just like you have a choice of what you're going to build, and you have the responsibility to be aware of what it is that you want and to start doing the work necessary to cultivate and create that. You decide, right? You get to decide if you're going to stay the same or if you're going to be changed, right? Because in terms of emotional responses to situations, this can transform your emotional world, your inner world, your life, right? Even your peace of mind. And you're being tested emotionally in order to learn these new skills, or not even, you may already be in the process, right? That might also be why it's so difficult. You might be in the process of trying to like handle these emotions, and you just feel like you're being tested so hard that you can't possibly do it. But the idea is you're being tested because you're meant to work through these emotions. You're meant to kind of start mastering and integrating these skills and this awareness to help improve your overall quality of life. And, eventually you'll get to the point where you have enough emotional stability within yourself and within your connections that it doesn't matter what life throws your way. It doesn't matter what you have in the material world. It doesn't matter what you lose, right? You can have that stability internally, and that'll help you navigate whatever it is that comes your way. And the other kind of cool thing is, like, so with this energy being repeated here with the Oracle card, it actually says the crumbling, right? And then it says, what are you clinging on to? And so what I love about this is that it's taking this experience, whatever that may be for you, and it's highlighting it as an opportunity for, increased awareness and growth. And it's asking you a question. So, regardless of where you find yourself over the course of this month, like, this is a great question to keep coming back to, because a lot of times our challenging emotions and the things that kind of impact us to the point that we feel we can't handle whatever is going on, it's usually because there's something that we don't want or something that we do want that we're holding on to. We're trying to control the situation, we are resisting. And, they say what you resist persists, right? And so you're being empowered to take a look at what it is that you're hanging on to. How is that taking a difficult situation and making it worse? And given whatever it is that you're hanging on to, what does that say about your values? Like, what does that say about what's most important to you? And is there a different way to approach the situation that can still take you in the direction of the things that are important to you without needlessly torturing yourself, right? Without, being so focused on what it is that you want or what it is that you don't want, and holding on to it so tightly that you're not able to kind of ebb and flow with life, right? Because we don't want to be stagnant. And yeah, in order to rebuild, it's like you're gonna have to let go of whatever it is that's really challenging you, and whatever it is that's really kind of stirring up those difficult emotions in order to create something better, right? Yeah, so I think I'm gonna leave that there, and I'm gonna shuffle some affirmations just to kind of help anchor this energy in. So for pile 2, whatever affirmations are going to be most helpful in navigating the energy of this month. Okay. Sometimes this takes a while, the shuffling. Right, so your first one, releasing anger from the past sets me free in the present. Another one. Whenever I compare myself to others, I simply say this prayer. The light I see in them is a reflection of my inner light. I'll try and get 2 more affirmations. I was originally going for 2 per pile, but pile 1 ended up having 4 in total jump out. So, okay, last one. So I begin my day with love. And finally, relationships are assignments for optimal growth and healing. So that's actually really cool. The energy feels kind of aligned to what I was already picking up on, but I think that these will be some really helpful affirmations or ideas just to keep in the back of your mind as you're working through this month. And because, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, this feels like a very challenging energy. It feels like a very difficult space to be in, and it's not negative by any means, right? It's not negative, and it's really, we all go through it. We all go through these really challenging times inevitably, and that's okay. But, like, it's also a very promising energy, and things seem like there's a very good outcome, even just over the course of the month. Like, you would be surprised how much can change over the course of the month if you are really being aware and intentional of your experiences, and, doing your best to kind of align with whatever's in your highest interest, right? So it's like making good decisions, making decisions that are going to be healthy on all levels, taking care of yourself. That's also really important when you're experiencing something like this. But yeah, so it's kind of neat because this really goes hand in hand with learning how to navigate and process and then release emotions, right? So this has anger specifically, which, yeah, you may find that you have a lot of anger or perhaps resentment. And this goes for all emotions, really, not just anger. But you know what they say about anger, that anger is just pain. It's just sadness and hurt. It's just, sometimes what happens is we experience so much hurt that it just turns into anger, right? Because it becomes overwhelming. And especially if we're internalizing things and not dealing with them, then they build up and they add on. And sometimes the tiniest little thing can make you completely lose it, just because there's too much pain that's there, that's stagnant, that hasn't been released. And Yeah. So really, it's true, right? So this is a crumbling down and it seems like a loss and it seems terrible, but you're being set free. You have the opportunity to be set free, right? You're being challenged to free yourself. And so letting go, right? Letting go of whatever's happened, letting go of whatever's lost, it doesn't mean that it didn't hurt. It doesn't mean that it's not major, an important shift in your life. But, there comes a time when you have to let go of these things, whether it's, a certain emotion, whether it's a person, whether it's a job, a house, like it can really apply to anything, and it's going to be unique to you and your current experience, but you really have to be willing to let go of it at some point or another, right? Because once you get to a certain point, you're just torturing yourself. You're just keeping yourself stuck in that like painful, hurtful energy. And, I'm sorry to say it, but it's the truth. Like, eventually it does become a choice, right? There's only so much that we can do about our circumstances, and, things are out of our control, but it's up to us how we navigate it and the decisions that we make. And eventually, like, staying in anger, staying in those difficult emotions, not dealing with them, not releasing them, it does become a choice at a certain point. And that's why, self-awareness is key, right? It's knowing when you're getting to the point that, you need to start processing in a way that's going to take that weight off of your shoulders, right? And then this is another one that's kind of neat. I really like this actually too. So comparison, right? Like oh my gosh, comparison has always been a thing, especially in the rat race and like the ego driven behavior and like materialism and all of that lovely stuff, right? But especially now, like, we live in a society that is just constantly bombarded with anything and everything and the absolute best. And a lot of it is not real, right? A lot of it is staged. A lot of it is very carefully curated to put a certain image out. And so it's difficult sometimes not to compare yourself to others. So this is just a reminder that, whatever it is that you're seeing in anybody else, whether it's something that makes you feel jealous, right? Maybe it's something that you admire, that you wish you had, and you're jealous seeing somebody else have what you want or what you feel is meant for you. It's just highlighting the fact that it's already within you. You already have that, right? You just have to connect with it. So we can't see anything in anyone else that we don't have ourselves. So that goes for like perceived positive and negative things too. A lot of times the things that we see in other people that we really don't like, those are qualities that we possess as well. And, recognizing them, we can get carried away. We can project onto those people, and we can, try to beat them to make ourselves feel better, or try to take them down a notch, right? Step on their head to get ahead, or put them down to feel better about ourselves. But that's not a healthy or productive thing to do, right? And that's not the point. The point is not to win. The point, it has nothing to do with this other person or these other people or whatever it is that's bringing up these emotions. The whole point is it's something within you that's looking to be recognized and released, essentially. So these kind of go hand in hand as well. And it kind of draws on relationships too. So sometimes that energy can can interfere with our relationships and prevent us from actually having quality, meaningful relationships, because we're so busy getting caught up in comparison, right? And so just remember, like, good and bad, whatever you see in other people, you also possess in yourself, right? So don't give your power away by focusing on someone else and what they're doing, what they have, what they don't have. Know that it's within you. Know that you have it. You have the capacity. And the more that you recognize that within yourself and focus on it, the more that you can, if it's something good, it's something that you want, the more that you can work to use your awareness and cultivate that. And if it's something that you don't like or that you don't want, it's a humbling experience to help you see, maybe some blind spots or an area that you could do better. And you can start taking little steps to connect with that light instead of the shadow, right? All right, and then we've got I begin my day with love. Obviously, with all of these cups, all of the emotions, love is a huge part of that. Self-love and love in relationships. So when you're going through a difficult time and you're trying to stay grounded, love is a really good way to do that. So, it could even be taking some time in the morning to set some intentions that, think about, 5 things that you love about yourself, 5 things that you love about somebody else, that you love about life, that gratitude goes hand in hand with love. And that helps us really connect with a deeper level of like emotional satisfaction. And then relationships are assignments for optimal growth and healing. So this is all relationships, familial relationships, friendships, working relationships, obviously like romantic partnerships, all of that, right? We are here to interact with each other, and interacting with each other, we can like trigger each other. We can have, points of connection. We can have points of, separation or like dissonance. But it's all for our highest good. It's all to help us grow and heal. And, sometimes it's not until we see somebody experiencing something that we've gone through that we're able to kind of get a bit more perspective on our own situation. Or maybe seeing somebody, like I was saying, like if you're setting the example in terms of healing and how you're dealing with things, that might illuminate that aspect of life for the person that you're dealing with, right? So at the end of the day, regardless of what you're experiencing on your own and within your relationships, it's all meant to help us grow. It's all meant to kind of bring those shadows to light and help us become more self-aware so that we can stand in our power and make really wise use of our emotional energy instead of fighting and resisting, which can keep us stuck in difficult energy longer than is necessary, right? You don't have to be absolutely miserable, and you don't have to do things the hard way in order to learn and grow. Sometimes we end up making situations more difficult than they need to be. And really a lot of times it's about attitude, it's about perspective, and it's about choosing to make things easier for yourself. Not from a point of avoidance, obviously that needs to be said, but not taking the opportunity to punish yourself when you're feeling low because you feel like you've been dealt a crappy hand, right? So yeah, especially in relationships, because there's a lot of opportunity for people to be triggered. So just know, and even if you're going through something in your relationship right now, that it's just giving you an opportunity to deepen your connection to yourself and to the other person. And if you're both able to get in the energy of just accepting that, like, hey, we're in this together, we're both struggling, or we're both going through our own given things, but we can work together and come out stronger, and we can learn from each other along the way, then that keeps you in that like beginner's mind, and it really helps you to navigate things together, because life doesn't stop throwing things your way, good or bad, or if you want to define them as such. So yeah, overall, y'all are going through it, but this looks like a really, really, really good month for that emotional development and stability, and for your love and relationships. So just do your best to take some time to connect with yourself, practice mindfulness, lean into self-awareness, and just love yourself, just be easy on yourself, do what you can, and just know that when you're in that space with those intentions and you're trying to align with that kind of energy, that things will work out. Even if you can't see how, you just have to trust that things will work out. And this is your purpose right now, is to kind of sit in and deal with this energy. And I think that there's a really positive outcome, in spite of the perceived difficulties. So I think I'm going to leave your reading here. Thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed having the opportunity to read for you guys. If you enjoyed this, I would love to hear how it resonates. If you could like my video, if you're interested in more content, you can subscribe to my channel. And feel free to leave me a comment. I'm always happy to hear your advice and your feedback. And yeah, I look forward to reading for you again in the future. Hi there, pile 3. Welcome to your reading. I'll just say the same thing that I said for pile 2. I ended up having to take a break in recording and come back, and so now the lighting's a little bit weird. I've got some shadows on the table, which is not ideal, but hopefully things will be clear enough, and I have some more equipment coming so that future videos will hopefully be better quality and the lighting will be better, but for now I'm just doing the best with what I've got, doing the best I can. I will also say that I'm going to try my absolute best to get through this reading in one shot. Pile 2 ran a little bit longer than anticipated, but there was some stuff that I just kind of had to get out there. So please bear with me. I'm going to do my best. I do anticipate that I might have a bit of an interruption. If I have to, I'll just leave everything as is if that's the case. And whenever I can come back to it, I promise I'm going to do my best to keep things rolling and to have as much kind of continuity as possible. So thank you for your understanding if that ends up happening. All right, so pile 2, if you chose the Light Seers Tarot and this Howlite, then this is going to be your reading. These messages are for you. And again, so this is going to be for the month of January, what kind of energy is coming in, what to expect. So we're going to take a look at what kind of energy you're in or coming into January with, any possible challenges or blocks that you might be facing, and just some advice and insight as to how you can kind of move through that energy, make the most of this month's energy, and kind of continue along the path towards your highest good. So let's get into it. So your first card is 7 of Wands. Your second card is the 6 of Wands. And then we've got Page of Cups. And finally the Star. I'm just going to move these up. All right, and your Oracle card says yes. It's funny, I actually really, really love a lot of these cards, especially in this deck. Like the imagery, colors, like everything, so beautiful, love it. And also, I love this card, literally. The guidebook just says yes. Like, so you get this message and it says, just say yes. And if you go to take a look in the guidebook for some kind of elaboration or, some kind of advice or conditions about how and when and why it's important, it literally just says yes, 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 yes. So there's no room for interpretation there. It's kind of cool, but it also flows really nicely with this overall energy. So that is very promising. This is a very this is a very inspiring, very uplifting, positive, expansive feeling kind of energy. So, wow, it seems like things are looking up for you. Not only looking up, but it seems like you're in a good place right now. Maybe you've been working on yourself, you've been working on mindfulness, your health. It's a very grounded energy. So the 7 of Wands is in a lot of decks, it's got a kind of aggressive feel to it. Like there's a sense of attack, somebody being attacked and being in a defensive position. But I specifically love this deck because it is almost an elevated take on that energy. It's kind of like the highest good, like your highest outcome being in that energy. So normally the focus would be that maybe things that are going on around you are kind of unsettled. Maybe there's some turmoil. I don't know, it may be in your personal relationships, in your family, possibly in the workplace. You might feel as though you're under scrutiny, where people are kind of coming at you, coming after you, trying to knock you down, right? And yes, quite often, being on the receiving end of that kind of energy often makes us feel victimized and puts us in a position where we feel defensive or like we have to defend ourselves, because there's almost an insinuation that if somebody's coming for you and criticizing you and trying to knock you down, then you're doing something wrong, right? And then in saying like, oh, well, obviously I'm doing something wrong, then you feel the need to defend yourself. Like, no, I'm not wrong. What I'm doing is fine. And the whole point is that, like, no, you're not doing anything wrong. Well, most likely, I can't say that for sure, but it's really up to you to exercise your discretion, obviously, and like be a good human. But it, like, in this energy for this month, coming into this month, it's like, no, you're good, and you know you're good, or at least you're working on cultivating that energy, right? You want to be in that space. I'm trying not to like be crude and swear, but like literally this card, every time I see it, it's just like unfuckwithable, right? Like nobody can touch you because you're doing your work, you're staying in your lane, and like let them try, right? And so the whole point is, if people are coming after you, or if there's turmoil around you or in your relationships, or you feel like even if people are talking down to you, they might be trying to like poke at you, right, to get a rise out of you. It's not because you're doing something wrong. It's not because you're lacking. You know, it has absolutely nothing to do with you and, you know, your value or your worth as a human. It's purely a reflection of those individuals who are kind of like perpetrating and putting that energy out there. And, you know, quite oftentimes, people come after you when you're doing well, you know, when you're succeeding, when you have the things that they want for themselves, but maybe they're not prepared to do the work on. And so this is a really encouraging energy. And also, if you take a look, so these wands that are coming at her, they're all below her, right? So she's elevated, she's on this cushion, she's like meditating, she's in the zone, she's got like this protective bubble. So this is also about having boundaries too, right? So having that inner peace and having the confidence to know what is right for you, to take that inspired action and to not let anybody knock you down. That's what you're coming into this month with, and that's your strength. Like, that's a very good energy to be in. So this is telling me like this is like a good energy, like things are going well. And if you're noticing that there are some struggles arising, just take that as additional confirmation that you're doing well, you're on the right path, and the work that you're putting in is working, right? Because when you are happy and when you are grounded and centered and you're achieving the things that are important to you, you have this like inner peace that can't be touched by anybody else, right? So it doesn't matter how many people come at you with these sticks jabbing you, you know, it's not going to change your experience. You're not going to allow someone else to knock you down. And the boundaries that you set as a result of being in your power only help to, you know, ensure that is being broadcast to others. And so sometimes even this made me just think of all of a sudden, like, boundaries are necessary, right, for all of us. But it's the fact that if you're setting boundaries and people are upset, if they're reacting negatively, if they're causing drama, if they're mad at you or mad about it, and they're coming after you and making you feel like you're in the wrong, or making you feel like you have to justify and explain yourself, that's a very good indication that that boundary is necessary and it will work, right? Because the only people that get upset about you having boundaries are the people who benefit from you not having any. And these sticks kind of jabbing at you, these people coming after you when you've set your boundaries, it's kind of like a last ditch effort to convince you to be, you know, to play their game, right? To kind of give in, or, you know, let them have access to your energy in whatever way, you know, they're trying to manipulate the situation, right? And so the thing is, like, everybody has to do it for themselves. You clearly know this, right? This is something that you're doing, or you are working on, or you're strengthening, right? So it's like you've kind of laid the foundation, you've done the groundwork, and now you're kind of in this space. And these people have to do it for themselves too, right? So you know you're responsible for yourself, your health, your happiness, you know, your peace of mind and your fulfillment. And yeah, this is just a confirmation that if, you know, people are coming after you, it's because you're successful, right? And you don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to explain why you've put boundaries in place. right? Because it's for you. That's your business. That's important to you. You're doing what you need to do. And if those people are upset because it's impacting their lives, then it's just validation that, you know, they're not doing the work for themselves. You know, they're not taking responsibility for themselves and their healing and their happiness. And they're trying to knock you down to feel better as a result, because seeing you there, seeing you happy, seeing you elevated in your power, where you're, you know, protecting yourself and your resources, just, it's going to be triggering for them, right? Because if they're not doing it for themselves, it's going to be upsetting. Like there could be, you know, jealousy there. And also, like, this is codependence in relationships too. So, you know, be extra aware if you are coming into contact with people who are like codependent, that like, yes, the boundary is really super important, and that's you being in your power. And the other thing is also in like being in this space where you are feeling calm and zen and focused and protected, and aligned, right, and not being knocked down. It's important to remember to still be open, right? So not to let anyone convince you to stray from your path, or to do something that's unhealthy, or to participate in codependence or anything like that. But, you know, still be open to your surroundings. Don't be so cut off in your own world that you're not willing to, you know, participate in experiences and learn from experiences and interact with other people, and have the opportunity to connect with, you know, information that might help you develop, right? So it's like, you know what's best for you and you're doing what's right for you. But sorry, my dog just walked in. But you're also responsible for, you know, participating in everyday life and relationships with people, and you're always going to be able to learn from your interactions. So even those challenging situations where people are coming after you, there still might be something that you can learn. There still might be perspective to be gained. You don't have all the answers still. So don't be so protective and cut off that you're not able to capitalize on opportunities for learning, or accept feedback that might actually be beneficial and help you connect with more of this kind of energy, but just in a different way. So yeah, overall, it's really good energy to be coming into this month with. And with that being said, if you're not currently in this energy, but maybe it's something that you've been working on, or it's kind of been in the back of your mind, you might also be encouraged to kind of connect with more of this, right? So, you know, you might not be exactly in this position yet, but it might be something that you are striving for. And chances are, you know, if that is the case, that you're probably closer than you think, or you're further ahead than you think, because quite often we are our own worst critic. And especially when it comes to development, sometimes it's easy to lose sight of how far we've come or how much we've done. And, you know, a lot of times it takes having a certain kind of experience that normally would have set us off or triggered us, or been kind of problematic. And then it's not until we experience that later on and we respond to it differently from a place that is more self-aware or more healed, that we realize that we've come that far, right? Because it's not always obvious to us or readily available, and we're not always in a position to recognize. And so you know, it's basically saying, like, you could already be in this energy, you could be working on this energy, you might not even realize that you're here. Maybe this is something that you need, or that will help you kind of coming into the month as well. But it actually kind of segues really nicely into your challenge for this month, because it's, you know, the 6 and 7 of Wands. So, you know, they're side by side in the deck. They're part of the path, right? And the interesting thing with the 6 of Wands being here, it's like you are actually being challenged to recognize your accomplishments, you know, to recognize your value, what you bring to the table. You know, it's taking a moment to celebrate your success, you know, to celebrate how far you've come, and to really, you know, give yourself a pat on the back. And it's not only giving yourself a pat on the back, but it's accepting and appreciating any kind of attention or validation or any kind of, you know, proof or experiences in your external environment that might be reflecting your level of success back to you. So it could be that you're receiving some kind of attention or recognition for doing a good job. You know, it might be that you're finally at the point where it feels as though your hard work is starting to pay off, but you might not necessarily be ready to accept that praise or accept that attention, or even be willing to recognize the fact that like you are gaining ground, you are successful, you are accomplishing the things that you're setting out to, and you deserve to be recognized. You deserve to recognize yourself. You deserve to take that to heart, you know, and she's got the spotlight on her. You could also be in a situation where, you know, people are looking to you, right? People are seeing what you're accomplishing and how well you're doing, and they have an appreciation for what you bring to the table, and maybe they're looking to you for leadership. Like you might be in a position to help influence others. So for example, if you're in this place where, you know, you've been doing the work to set these boundaries and to kind of protect your energy and not let anyone interfere with your inner peace, then it might be inspiring the people around you, right? So you might not think that you're doing much, or you might not think that you're as successful as you want to be, but the people around you see what you're doing, you know, and they're either going to be coming at you with these sticks trying to knock you down, or they're going to be aligning with you and thinking like, this person is on a path that I want to be on. This person is doing something that I want to do, or that I'm in the process of doing. And so there's also opportunity not only for that recognition, but for alignment within relationships as well. And so with it being a challenge, it could be something that you feel uncomfortable about. Maybe it leaves you feeling a little bit vulnerable or embarrassed to receive attention or recognition. Or maybe it's not until you start seeing evidence of your success reflected back to you that the self-sabotage comes in, right? Because if we're being hard on ourselves while we're trying to accomplish something, and we're kind of, you know, we're kind of trying to protect ourselves by not getting too invested in the results that we're seeing, or, you know, it's like trying to motivate ourselves to continue going and to do better by kind of undercutting or underestimating the amount of work that we've been doing, or you know, how successful we've been in moving toward our goals. So we kind of protect ourselves that way, because sometimes success is scary. We all seem to want success, right? We want to be successful. We want to be happy. We want to be living this passionate, you know, aligned life where, you know, things are just great. We want to have a reason to celebrate, but a lot of times, you know, the very thing that we want, when we finally get it, it can bring up some like weird feelings. It can bring up some stuff that we are not necessarily aware is there. And so with this being your challenge this month, it's like, pay attention to the situations where you could be, you know, even if it's just something as simple as receiving a compliment, or, you know, receiving recognition for doing a good job, or, you know, some kind of award, or even if it's just a friend, like taking a moment to really sincerely thank you and recognize you for, you know, being their friend, or for the support that you're offering them. Really closely examine any discomfort and any avoidance that you have around that, because often, like, you know, we'll deflect, right? If somebody pays us a compliment, we feel uncomfortable, and a lot of times people will kind of deflect, and, you know, they're hesitant to take the credit, right? And they don't want to seem self-involved, and they don't want to seem conceited. And the reality is, like, you know, we're human, we need validation, but, you know, we deserve to celebrate our successes. We deserve to accept, you know, the attention, the support, the appreciation that is really genuine and heartfelt and meaningful. And it's not just, you know, about empty, superficial validation. You know, we deserve to connect with that. That's entering our life for a reason. You're doing something that's influencing your external environment in such a way that this is the energy coming back to you. You know, that's what we want. That's the goal. But it's hard to continue along that path and to keep kind of elevating and ascending in whatever it is, that you're trying to accomplish, if you're having a hard time recognizing your success. So it's a card of victory, and it seems like things are going in a really positive direction. So it's kind of like you have to start getting comfortable with doing well, and not only doing well, you might be humble, right? You might be quietly working on these things and, not wanting to get a big head, not wanting to make a big deal out of it, trying to like stay quiet, keep a low profile, not attract too much attention. And the thing is, it's like, if you're getting this good energy coming your way and you're successful, like, you deserve it. You deserve it. You should take it seriously. You should celebrate yourself. And like, obviously, to, not to let it go to your head. Don't let it influence you, in a negative way, or like let your ego get out of control. But it's basically like, you deserve appreciation and recognition for a job well done, whether it's coming from someone else or whether it's something that you're doing for yourself. So find reasons to celebrate. Find examples of the aspects of life that are, that are working out, the major changes that you've made, the things that you feel proud about, and lean into that, because getting into that energy is only going to help you continue along your path, especially if it's from like a grounded place of legitimately, allowing yourself to be positively impacted by the transformation that you're basically undertaking or working toward yourself. And in terms of how to kind of anchor that in, like, we've got the Page of Cups here, which is, emotional fulfillment. It's like a very dreamy kind of energy. Like, it's really, really nice. And it's kind of like, you have the freedom. You have the freedom to experience whatever you want to experience. And, this is literally the When Pigs Fly card. Like, you're not bound, you're not bound to only doing things like the old school or traditional way. You're not bound by people's expectations. There's so much opportunity, and really it's all about you. It's about what feels good to you. So don't be afraid to kind of daydream a little. Don't be afraid to kind of like fantasize about what the best possible outcome would be, or what you might enjoy doing. It's also a very like lighthearted and playful energy, right? Like, his feet are way off the ground, and he's just like, he's not even concerned about it, right? Like, it's a really nice energy. And so not taking yourself too seriously and kind of having a playful approach is another way to kind of help you overcome this challenge of, receiving recognition and validation, right? So it's like, if you avoid it because you don't want to get a big head and you don't want to seem like you take yourself too seriously, then don't. You can accept, you can be humble, you can accept praise, you can celebrate yourself, and you can do it from a place of love and joy and fun. You don't have to take yourself too seriously. You don't have to, be obnoxious and sing your own praises. It's really like, on an emotional level, that fulfillment that you can feel, it's up to you. Like, you can create whatever you want, right? And so because everything is aligned, and because it's, this energy is boding well for you being centered and aligned and in a place to really kind of make moves. Like, you've done the groundwork and you're in a stable position, and now it's time to kind of see how far you've come and celebrate before you buckle down and move toward the next goal. But it's like, you don't even necessarily need to buckle down, right? It's about enjoying. This is also like celebration, right? And I think when it comes to doing inner work or working toward goals, we put a lot of value on action and planning, practicality. We're looking for really solid, concrete, tangible examples of putting in work. And we don't necessarily recognize the value of, kind of daydreaming. Right? But the thing is, when we're in that dreamy space where we're kind of feeling free and light, you'd be surprised the kind of insight that you might get. You'd be surprised what might resonate with you if you allow yourself to kind of just step out of the usual and see where your mind and your heart take you, right? Because, and the other thing is, there might be a really quirky or kind of like unique idea or concept that you come across that might help you to kind of like continue going on this path, because this is like fire energy. It's very passionate, it's very driven, and it's basically like, if you can stay on that path and you can keep that passion and excitement ignited, but if you can also pair that with the ability to kind of like dream and feel free and like capitalize on the expansive energy here, then you can bring emotional fulfillment into it. You can kind of almost access a higher level of creativity, which is only going to bode well for whatever it is that you are working toward. And yeah, it's just not being limited. And also you see here, there's two hands coming together to make a heart, right? And it looks to be like a male hand and a female hand. So it's also kind of encouraging us to have fun in relationships, friendships, partnerships, family relationships. It's to kind of carry that lighthearted, playful, dreamy kind of energy into other relationships, especially ones that are feeling a little bit heavy or a little bit constricted, especially if there are ones that, they're maybe a little bit stale because it's kind of all work and no play, which sometimes in this space you end up getting a little bit serious and forgetting to take time to just play and enjoy yourself and let your imagination kind of run wild. So that's such a nice, like, encouraging kind of piece of advice, like this is all really, really kind of like transformative energy, but it's very open-ended, it's very free, and it's kind of like, man, just chase your dreams. Because even with the star here, this month is a really, really wonderful time to start connecting with, whatever it is that makes you feel most whole, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to create in your life, whether it's a specific, job that you're trying to get, whether, you're looking for an outlet for your creativity, something that's going to be fulfilling, whether it's like, helping other people, spending time with family, whatever it is, the star basically, it's a card of healing, but it's also another like dreamy kind of card. And you look at her and she's staring up at the stars. So it's kind of like there's a sense that whatever's going on is divinely guided. So what you're going through, what you've been focused on, what you've been accomplishing, and the path that you've been on is directly related to your purpose in this life, your divine purpose. And so it's kind of like the feeling is, you've been doing the work to get yourself into a position where you know yourself better and you can access your intuition, and you're not falling victim to anyone else and their energy, or at least you're trying not to. And because you're in that space, it's like you've kind of laid that foundation, you've done that groundwork, and now it's time to start, now it's time to start testing the limits, right? Seeing what you can accomplish. Like, now is the time to dream. Now is the time to enjoy yourself. Now is the time to create something beautiful for yourself that is going to kind of take you to the next level, And so she's basically following the stars. So it's kind of, there's a sense that in being in this space where she's done that work and she's ready to keep moving forward, you're on a divine path. And there are so many different ways to get to the same destination that at any given time, your wants, your needs, your thoughts might change, but you ultimately know, like, you can feel it. And if you can tap into that feeling in your heart, and you can start to kind of decipher what it is that your heart is telling you, and what direction you're being led in, you can trust that that's right. So she's being guided by the stars, so this is kind of the next step on your path, is really being able to step into this energy, to be proud of who you are, because you've worked so hard to come this far. And, whatever, like, you already have success, and the universe is basically saying, like, you have success and you need to learn how to accept it, because you're only going to have more, and this is your path. This is your purpose, whatever it is that's been calling to you, whatever it's been on your mind that you're trying to create, and the work that you're doing as a result to try and get there. It's like, keep going, right? Because, this is an important step, because you're kind of trying to, like, connect the dots almost, right? So you're trying to come from this place of, cultivating that inner peace to be able to listen to your innermost wants and needs, and then learning how not only to take action on it, but to accept when things are going well, and not to self-sabotage, and not to succumb to limitations, right? Because sometimes what happens when we start to become successful, especially if we're getting more attention, is that can be positive attention and praise, but it can also be more negative attention. And so you have to have the ability to kind of stay up, right? To stay lighthearted, to dream, right? To see the possibilities. And even if you don't know what the possibilities are, to know that there are no limits, right? And that the most important thing you can do is stay centered and really keep following your heart, right? Because there's a lot more fulfillment. There's a lot more success, and you don't want to be in a position where things are finally starting to align, and the result of your success causes you to get in your own head, right? Or causes you to, to limit yourself, because the more people that come in, you'll have a certain number of people that will try to tell you how you should do things, or, they might question you. They might try to knock you down. They might try to limit you, right? Because the thing about this being divine is, like, it's part of your path. It's part of your calling. And the thing is, like, that is very unique to you, and you get to decide what that is. And it might not be something that makes sense to everyone else. It might not be mainstream. It might not be something that your friends and family understand or support. And you might have people trying to kind of, like, bring you down to earth. So it's like, if you're dreamy and you are, really kind of allowing yourself the opportunity to consider all of these options and to flow with, to follow. So it's like, it's not only opportunities there, and they might be, like, really kind of, they might seem really out of touch and like your feet aren't on the ground, but that's part of the path, is kind of floating away, and you're still on your path, right? You don't need somebody to bring you back down to the ground, because here she's tethered, right? So she's firmly planted on the ground, but she has a tether basically to the stars. And so the 3D world, the external world, a lot of people feel bound. Like, there are only certain careers that you can be successful in. There are only certain ways to make money, and you have to do the regular 9 to 5, and all that stuff. And a lot of that is really old school, like, fear-based behavior. But there are still a lot of people that buy into it, and there are even more people that spend all of their time thinking solely about money and about possessions and about the material world, and they don't understand or they haven't had an experience of, alignment and fulfillment and a sense of being divinely guided toward a purpose. So of course, if you are in that space and it feels right to you, that's right. But there are always going to be people that think that maybe like you're a little bit off your rocker, or maybe like, you're unreasonable. You're not realistic. And the thing is, like, being realistic is really subjective, right? Because it all depends on your perspective. It depends on your knowledge. It depends on like what you're trying to do. And if you are trying to transcend all of the limitations that we kind of take on as humans, and all of the kind of unhelpful, heavy stuff that we perpetuate, kind of under for false purposes, right? Like we think that we know how to be successful, and we think that we know how to be happy, but we end up chasing things that do not equate to happiness at all. So this is basically permission to, follow your dreams, do whatever is going to make you happy. You don't have to have your feet firmly on the ground. You don't have to have the permission from other people. It doesn't have to make sense to them. And, don't let people scare you. Don't let people scare you from following your passions. Don't let people scare you from, getting creative, using your imagination, taking, a leap, following what it is that you want to do, right? Because if you are tuned in and you are connected and you're confident in your ability to discern what is right for you, you don't need somebody to tell you what to do or how to do it, right? Let alone somebody to scare you out of doing something that might be beneficial. And the thing is, like, it's completely normal as you kind of ascend along your path and you align with your purpose and what it is that is most fulfilling, that, some people are going to be triggered because they're not doing that for themselves. Other people are not going to understand because they can't even grasp the concept. It just sounds crazy. And some people will feel like it's their obligation to kind of bring you back down to the earth and like rain on your parade because they think they're helping you. They think they're saving you from like certain pain or certain failure. And the thing is, it's like, it's okay. It's okay to be successful. It's okay to align with success, to not have a fear of failure, because let's be honest, failure is also necessary. And even if you were to fail, you would learn something, right? So failure is not indicative of your worth or your value. It's an important path. It's an important step on the path. And so, you're going to be able to determine what it is that's most beneficial to you. And you're basically being given the green light, the green light to connect with that energy and to move forward. And the fact that you have this oracle card that just say yes, that's, stop limiting yourself, or don't allow yourself to be limited. Don't place limitations on yourself in your mind, and try to cultivate a belief system that allows room, for flexibility and openness and connection with opportunity. And also don't let anyone else project their fears or their worries and their experience onto you. Don't let them, make you fearful or feel as though you should be holding yourself back from something that you feel is right for you, because if you're being drawn to it, it's for a reason, and you don't know what the outcome is going to be, but it's going to be an important part of your path either way, and it's going to connect you with, something that you need to experience, whether it's success and you move further along and you're growing and you're learning, or whether you face a setback or, a roadblock. Whatever it is that you're drawn to, it's because there's something in it for you and you specifically, and nobody else is going to be able to understand that and validate that. So you have to be okay doing it for yourself. And the other thing that just came to mind is like, don't let people beat you down. As say to the people closest to me all the time, it's like, especially when it comes to this energy, it's like, you know, I'm trying not to limit myself. I'm trying not to be hard on myself. I'm trying not to beat myself down, limit myself, and make my life miserable. Why would I let someone else do it to me? Right? So it's like, why would I let somebody else talk to me or treat me or in a way, or like convince me of something that I know is not right? It's like, I'm not doing that for myself. So, you know, why is somebody else going to convince me that that's the case? If I really truly know what's right. So that's another important thing to keep in mind. So I think we're done with the cards. I'm just going to pull a few affirmations for you to help anchor this energy in for the month of January. Okay. So we've got, there's always a solution of highest good, and dissolve all boundaries with love. And I'm going to see if I can get 2 more, just because the other piles ended up with 4 affirmations. And my eyes will see what I desire. All right, let's see if we can get one more for pile 3. Okay, let's see. The key to getting what I want is to ask for it. All right. And so I feel like these definitely fall in line with the very like expansive energy of this reading overall, right? So it's like being in a space where you're willing to believe in the possibilities that are ahead of you, and not only believe that they're there, but that you will be able to discern how to connect with them and to move into that energy. And, you know, it's about perspective as well, right? So whatever mind frame you're in, whatever you're focused on, that's what you're creating for yourself. That's what you're going to see in your external environment. And, you know, if there's something that isn't quite sitting well with you, or that you're not happy with, it's a good opportunity for you to take a look at the lens through which you're viewing it. And, you know, is there something different that you can do? Is there another way of seeing the situation that might, you know, align with what it is you're trying to create? So it's like kind of finding the good, or finding the meaning in everything that happens, and being able to like transmute that energy. And I also love this. The key to getting what I want is to ask for. I feel like all of these are very straightforward, but it's kind of like the whole success thing, right? If you want it, you have to ask for it, right? You have to set the intention, you have to work toward it, but you also have to be willing to accept it when it comes, right? And so it's also important if you are in a position where you need to collaborate with others, for example, or there's like a key relationship that maybe you need to find more alignment in, like as you're moving toward whatever you're trying to create for yourself. And so it's like, don't be afraid to ask, right? Don't be afraid to ask for support if that's needed. And like also take time to connect with love. This goes hand in hand with the Page of Cups and the Star, like that very dreamy, expansive energy. It's like, it's important, right? Like we need love. Love and hope kind of go hand in hand. And the love is the thing that helps us, you know, counter a fear. So when you've got situations where people are testing your boundaries, or people are trying to bring you back down and put limitations and restraints on you, it's like, you know that there's more. So you can see it, and it's up to you, your attitude and your perspective, to stay in that place where you're willing to connect with it. You have to be willing to ask for what you want, and that's also part of setting the boundaries. And then love. Like the only way to kind of manage fear is with love, right? And so if someone's coming at you from a place of fear and trying to limit you, even if it's upsetting for you, try to approach the situation from a place of love, right? And see that, you know, maybe this person just has the best of intentions and they don't understand. They don't understand the impact of, you know, their advice or the influence that they're trying to have. They don't understand, you know, how that might be detrimental to you, right? So it's, you know, staying in a place of love, doing what's best for you, but also extending love and understanding to other people, because it seems like you have a kind of unique perspective on life, and you've got a little bit more awareness as to like kind of like the big picture, and so and like maybe a little bit more like wisdom. Maybe you're wise beyond your years and you're trying to create something that most people can't even fathom, right? And so it's just remembering that sometimes people can seem difficult or problematic, but a lot of times it's just that they can't understand. And it's just to make sure that even if you're feeling like a little bit lonely on your path, or even if you're feeling like people are kind of coming at you, to just stay in that place of love, extend them empathy and compassion, and just kind of continue to focus on, you know, being your best self, and working towards your highest good, like not only for yourself but for everyone else. Like being in that energy, everybody who's around you benefits, and you have this light that you can shine, and people see it and they feel it, and they're drawn to it. And staying in a place of love is what will help unite you, even if you're on a path that might kind of segregate you from people, like especially if it's spiritual development. Like, you know, moving along the spiritual path, it kind of takes you more and more out of the normal everyday life and the way that most people approach situations. And so it can draw a bit of a wedge. It can, you know, interfere with your connections with people, and it can make you feel really lonely. And so love is a good way to kind of stay connected with the people around you, even if they might not understand what you're trying to create, or they might not be fully supportive. So yeah, anyways, pal 3, I think I'm going to leave your reading there. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to have had the opportunity to read these cards for you. And I hope you enjoyed. I hope this resonates. If so, I would love if you like the video, subscribe to my channel. Feel free to leave a comment, any feedback, or tell me how it resonates for you. But yeah, I wish you all the best, and I'm very much looking forward to creating more readings for you guys.